Hello, everybody. It's Laura Eisenhower. I'm joined today by two very special guests. Rob Potter, who has been a great friend over the course of many years, and Raymond Keller, who I got to meet in New Mexico a couple years ago, who has such an incredible story, and will be focusing a lot on that in this particular interview. And I'm going to have Rob introduce him, but first let me share a few words about Rob. And before I do that, I just want to thank you both for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Laura.
Yeah, so this is All Things Venus, which is really awesome. I was a part of one of Rob's conferences that was all about, Venus. So this is a really, really exciting topic for me, and I know a lot of listeners out there as well. So let me just tell you a bit about Rob. Rob Potter has been researching healing and consciousness for over 40 years. He has given seminars all over the world, including Egypt, Canada, Germany, and USA. He has been experiencing UFO contact since 1975 with the late Dr. Fred Bell in Laguna Beach at the age of 18. He has traveled extensively in his search for truth and has spent time with Sai Baba in India. Rob is considered an expert in pyramidology and the uses of crystals. He is a master healer in the art of laying on hands and almost every modality of massage. So that's awesome. And yeah, I just want you to kind of take it away and tell us about Raymond. And I know you've known him for quite some time, right?
Yeah, I met Raymond through Frank Chile, and was really amazed to hear the information, and he enlightened me to many things. I want to be very quick here to get you into the meat of Dr. Raymond Keller here. So I'll say real quick here, by the way, folks, my summer conference is slated for the last 3 days in August. The 27th, the 27th, 28th, and 29th in Mount Shasta, California. It's going to be combined with another big music event. It should be very good. And we got Laura Eisenhower and a lot of great people coming. So if you want to check that out, my website has been deplatformed by Google. The Promise Revealed is now switched to the Promise Revealed UAT.com. It's kind of a mirror site. If you Google search Rob Potter, you'll get that. So I'm gonna just read you this introduction about Raymond Keller that I wrote for one of his books. And I'll be, while he's talking in the beginning, I can maybe share some of these pictures in amazing books. So this book is I wrote the introduction for his Vas Venus Conspiracy, and it actually tells you, he's become my one of my greatest teachers and mentors and guides, along with Louis Martens. So I'm going to read this just directly to you. I'm very happy to introduce you all to a very dear friend of mine, Raymond Keller. Raymond has taken a very important part of my life as my mentor and friend. He is one of the top researchers and contactees of our time. More importantly, he is one of the sweetest, kindest, and humble souls I've ever met. He's generous with his time to help others and to share his knowledge. His dedication to truth, coupled with his research talents, have left us all with a well-documented repository of archives in the form of now 5 published books and 2 finished books and another one as well. So as the world, his knowledge and metaphysical knowledge and insight to the reality of Venusian life, because he went there for 2.5 months. But as the world awakens to reality that we have benevolent space family on our sister orb Venus, the hunger for truth will increase exponentially. I predict Raymond will be recognized as the finest chronicler and scribe the world has ever known about the planet Venus. His books cover science, space exploration, the known and unknown hidden history of 𝗵𝗲𝗄, which means the planet of the bees, as they call their native planet, and so much more. His wonderful sense of humor is evident in his delight and sense of comic relief in all of his tomes. His pop cultural references are welcome counterpoints to the hard scientific facts. They're so important when dealing with life in on Venus. He's been to Venus and lived there for 3.5 months in 2012 and 2013. He can count the Queen of Venus as his personal friend. He time traveled with the Queen to the year 1954. He can verify time travel is real and explain his harrowing story and journey with detail and accuracy. He was given permission by the regent of Venus The one we know is the accidental apostle, Lord Decimus, or the man who died on the cross with Christ as the ascended master of Moria. The ascended master of Moria gave him permission while living on Venus to view the Akashic records of Earth. The current Queen of Venus also conferred her blessing to his Akashic research. These revelations and the high level of information released are unprecedented. It's important we take advantage of these experiences to understand truth. His ongoing physical contacts and teachings are free from political distraction, superstition, and fear. I'm going to just share a screen now, and I'm going to show you some of, I call him the amazing Wizard of Cause, but I'm going to share with you his amazing and wonderful books. So we start off with his incredible book. When he got back, he created this book called Venus Rising. It really goes into the history of the planet. And it's just an amazing information, and he loves the pop cultural references, and he has a wonderful sense of humor. His second book is for those science people who are saying all these things, and you can ask him any questions about the science of Venus or the lies, but you're going to find that information here in this wonderful book called Rockets to Venus. All of these are available on my website, The Promise Revealed. UAT.com under the books section, and you can buy them here. Raymond receives more money that way, so you can buy them, and you also get a little B sticker that says a little bumper sticker that says "My other car is a Venusian scout ship." So that's number 2, and then of course here's the amazing story that has set the world on fire and opened my mind to the incredible possibilities. And I'm going to share with you this woman here. I want you to note her shoes. I want you to note they're wearing black, and I want you to notice he's wearing this little thing here, and she's holding in her hand, and I'm going to show you other pictures of her, what's called a nimbus. And this is when they time traveled back to 1954 at Giant Rock. They had a mishap because there was radiation in the atmosphere. They were actually in a bilocation signal on Venus in a dual position, and that caused them to crash. And here is a picture taken by the people who they landed in front of in Venus. And this is tremendous account in this book. So there's other amazing things I'm going to share here. So the fourth book is the one I just read my thing, and it's a little bit longer than that, but I didn't want to go too far here because I want to get right into Raymond. It's called the Vas Venus Conspiracy. Raymond has been well versed in knowledge in all the famous contactees, Howard Menger, you name it. He knows Jack Foley. He knows everyone in the UFO field since he was 15 when he had a UFO experience and was handwriting his own saucer information. He has a storage unit filled with amazing documented evidence of the Venusian contact and research. And when he went there and looked at the Akashic records, he looked at many things. So, and now this is the amazing 5th book. And this book is called, where'd I put that? 𝗍𝗂𝗍𝗶𝗍 Venus Revelations. I wrote the preface for this book. It's quite fantastic. And this is the girl from Venus. And you'll notice she's wearing a raspberry beret. So I'm going to take you now to after he released his 2nd book in 2017, the Queen of Venus, after his time up there, sent these 2 women down as part of an angel force to appear to him to congratulate him on his book. And when this girl was there, she handed Raymond the book that you saw, Lady Venus Columba Revelations. She said, "Can you adapt this?" She wrote this book after living for 4 years on Venus and the moon as part of what is called the angel force. She was taken from Earth and began to work in an incredible story that's going to blow your mind. She actually was helping a future parallel Earth, Earth number 4, not our Earth, and when they had an explosion to help them recover and to grow. So these amazing things are difficult to understand. So I'm going to fill this out a little bit here on these wonderful pictures of these women. This is 𝗦𝘂𝗶𝗍𝗏. Her name was Annabelle Krebs. In her incarnation on Earth, she was born in 1902, and she worked in the Christian socialist movement to help the people in India, where she met this woman. This woman is known as, I'm sorry, Kaz, could you say her name? I forgot.
Oh, yes, that's Lady Aurora.
Lady Aurora. Okay, so Lady Aurora was born in 𝗵𝗂𝗁𝗂𝗃 in 1885, and she became a guide for the East India Company. On the way down from the hill, there was a beggar along the side of the road. And the East India Company said, "You leave that beggar." She said, "No, he's hurt. I need to help him." And she took him down, and her great compassion, he said, "You're not going to get paid." She says, "You go on." She was up in 𝗏𝗏𝗏 or headed down into the 𝗵𝗂𝗁𝗏𝗏𝗏 area. And the master revealed to her, I'm not actually a beggar, and I'm not ill. You have great compassion. And he took her to Venus at some point, and she became a dual citizen of Venus and Earth. The same thing happened to this woman. She was wondering why she wasn't contacted. She worked with many famous contactees in her later 40s and 50s, and she was taken out of her bed, and this story is recounted in the amazing book, 𝗦𝘂𝗶𝗏𝗏 Venus Revelations. She lived there for 4 years, and when she came back, around the year of 95 is when she, what is called, translated, Laura. And the Venusians have a technology that I'll talk about a little bit from my contact experience to help you understand this. But she said, "I'm not going to die. I'm going to ascend to Venus." And what happened was, when she passed away, she went to sleep. But before that happened, a Venusian master came down, put something on her forehead, and took her DNA. She woke up, her body was left on the earth, she went to sleep, and immediately she woke up, and she was in a reconstituted body that looks like she's 19 or 20 years old, and she was 95 in Earth years, and she returned to her position as a positive action person working on the Venus force to the Earth. Now you'll notice they're wearing these little red outfits, and when they're in position in official capacity as acting as Venusians, they wear the raspberry beret. Prince had a contact and wrote a famous song about it called Raspberry Beret. So Prince had a contact. He changed his name to a symbol, which is very similar to the Venusian symbol, which is a Mars and a Venus. I'm going to get you now to the final little thing here. We could share some amazing stuff, but I want you to get right into Commander Raymond. So I'm going to share with you the picture. So as for some people who follow my work, I have been very fortunate. I met the Pleiadian cosmonaut 𝗟𝘂𝗍𝗍 in 1974, face to face, although it wasn't recognized by me. I was physically beamed up in 1989. The spaceship and landed in front of me, and she spoke to me telepathically with witnesses to calm me down because most of my experiences were out of body. Through Gabriel Green, a famous contactee who introduced Raymond to the Queen of Venus now, which is kind of a convoluted story. You can ask questions of Raymond, but I was allowed to meet this woman, the commander of the moon base Clarion on the dark side of the moon. The Venusians are in charge of the backside of the moon. They are the highest consciousness. It is an ambassadorial place. Many extraterrestrials have bases there. Reptilians do not. That is false. So there's not anymore anyway. So this is the Venusian moon base commander, or range. You'll notice she's wearing a B pin because the Venusians have a thing on the Venus. Now, so I'm going to quickly get into this real quick here. Here she is at Giant Rock in 1954. This is the same woman. So I was kind of questioning, she looks different, definitely, from that other picture that you saw. I was kind of questioning it when I met her. When I met her, I looked at her legs, and here's a picture with Kaz, And I kind of edited these for a better picture version, but I can't seem to open that picture. But let me show up her. Here's a picture of her taken when she revealed to someone that she was from Venus, and she went to the giant rock. And you could see these legs, and I looked through her pants because it was different color, but she had amazing blue eyes. She is a 6th-dimensional being. Venus is on the 4th dimension. She has lowered her vibration to serve on the earth, and she's the commander of the moon base. So I was allowed to have several, an officially recorded message with her, and that's available on my website. Let me see if I can open this one up. And there she is. So this is the picture of her where she was voted the Queen of Venus, and here she is with the famous like George Norrie or Art Bell of the day, Long John Nebel, and some other contactees. And so they do work amongst us, and they help us out. So that's the very quick, short version of Raymond's amazing contacts. And realize that in 2012, he was taken by another woman here, and I'm going to share that picture with you, who is the Queen of Venus. So I'm going to get to you to the Queen of 𝗵𝗲𝗆. Her name is Lady 𝗚𝘗. I'm going to show this picture real quick, and I want you to notice this. So notice this is documented, taken in 1954. See the sandals. These are her favorite sandals. But her time travel was from 2012 with Raymond. This man is from Mars. His name is Ramu. This guy is from Venus, and his name is 𝗵𝗀𝗀𝗀. This picture was taken by a Brazilian photographer. So you saw a picture of Raymond in 2012. She has not aged. This is part of the Venusian technology. Also here, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. You're going to see she's holding something in her hand. This is a security device. This is activated by the higher self. And when the people tried to follow her because they suspected her as a Venusian, she activated the nimbus, and they were able to get away and disappear in a flash of light, just like the flash of light that was witnessed by the 2 people that visited Raymond when he released his book. That's a lot of deep metaphysical information here. And the man I met, this is another picture of them, and this is the guy I met there with that woman. He's the one that filmed my recorded interview, and his name is Alon. He's very famous from the contactees of the 50s that met him. He is 2,400 years old and had an incredible energy. So here we see Raymond at 18 with the Queen of Venus. We've seen her in 1954, and you saw her on the front cover. She does not age. So there's amazing things in her story. You can talk to Raymond. So I'm going to cut out here and let you take it over. I've been a little fast, folks, so take your time, maybe re-listen to this, but I wanted this interview to be with Laura, who I respect greatly, who everyone I talk to, when I talk about people in our movement of the truth movement, everyone has nothing but good things to say. They say, she is real. There's no pretension, and she is a tiger and seeks truth, and is one of my great friends. I'm very honored that she'll be coming to my conference this summer. So thank you so much. I'm going to stop my sharing. And if you want any images, Raymond, let me know and I can pop them up. Okay?
Okay, Rob. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, so got so many questions for you. And I do want to make sure before we close that we talk a little bit about Val Thor and Victor One and maybe how that all relates to these Venusians that you know. But before we go into that, and that may be something we save till the end, basically, I mean, from Rob's introductions, it seems you've been having ongoing visitations with Venetians, or as Rob calls them, the angel force, since your actual trip to Venus for 10 weeks in 2012. Can you please tell us what it was like traveling to Venus? This was a physical trip, correct? This was not some astral or dimensional journey.
Yes, yes, it was a physical one. As we know from a lot of research that's been done on the super spectrum by John A. Keel and others, the planets of our solar system exist at various levels, there are etheric levels and even lighter densities beyond that in higher dimensions, but this was on a physical level.
So tell us about it. What was it like traveling there, and what did you see? And is it like an inner, like inside of the planet Venus, or kind of tell us about what Venus was like?
Yes, it's largely underground on the physical level, and many others have talked about this as well. They have hydroponic towers. They have these cars for internal transport that can take them anywhere through various played out lava tubes where they have built cities and so forth.
Wow. And how did you travel there again?
This was via a mothership.
Mm-hmm. And you were there for about 10 weeks. So that's a good chunk of time. What kind of information did you get, or what was the purpose of the trip?
Okay, the purpose of the trip was to document this information and to provide an accurate account of the history of Venus. My book is entitled, the very first one in the series, Venus Rising, A Concise History of the Second Planet. So I have a doctoral degree in history from West Virginia University, and I felt that it was time for somebody to write the history of Venus, and particularly the relationship of that planet, our cloudy sister planet, with that of the Earth. Now, the first book, History of a Planet, was written by Helena Blavatsky. She was the co-founder of the Theosophical Society back in 1885. And her first paper and her first treatise or book was titled History of a Planet, and it was all about Venus. And so 130 years later, in the year 2015, is when I started on this book for an update of the information, a long due update.
Yeah, so I want to say one thing here, Kaz. The reason you went there was to witness the ascension of the previous Queen of Venus. So you might want to talk about how you got there. You left from Tibet, correct? You saw the ship. You can maybe give her a quick thing and then.
Right. So you left from Tibet?
Yes, on the plateau in the northern part, northern part.
Right. And
there are two lakes up there, and in the middle of one of these lakes, there was a monastery, and that was a rendezvous point for the Venusians and other extraterrestrials on Earth.
So 5,000 extraterrestrials were taking a trip to Venus, Laura. It was like a bus stop in Tibet with the Tibetan monks out there, and they went in two ships in a 145-yard cigar-shaped ship, which Raymond rode on, and then there was Valiant Thor's ship that took others, and they landed on Venus and witnessed the ascension of the previous queen.
And so the ascension of the queen would relate to the ascension of humans as well? Is it something kind of like a collective, or?
Well, eventually we will pass through a process like that, but our time isn't yet.
Well, so Venus, I mean, interacts with the Earth more than any other planet, and I know other ET races like the Pleiadians interact quite a lot with Earth humans. What's the relationship between the Pleiadians and the Venusians?
Well, the Pleiadians, there are many varieties of Pleiadians. The Pleiades is actually a vast star cluster with about 250 suns, and hundreds of habitable worlds. And so the Pleiadians that we're most familiar with here on Earth come from a planet called 𝗟𝘂𝗏, and they're a member of a star faction called the Alliance, and the Venusians are members of a confederation of planets consisting of 601 planets from 51 star systems.
Oh, wow. So there's the Galactic Federation and the Galactic Alliance. I mean, I heard there's sort of a negative sort of Galactic Federation, but then there's a real one. Can you help us to understand what that's all about?
Well, there are many groups. There are many groups that have come together for their mutual interests in promoting their political, socio-political interests throughout the galaxy and even beyond. And at first, you know, Laura, when we talked about these things, people always said there's this woo-woo factor there and trying to put it down. But now we see Paul Hellyer, the defense minister from Canada, has confirmed that when he was in the United States on a NATO mission from Canada, and also speaking with American astronauts, that there are at least 80 species of extraterrestrials that are operative here on the Earth at the present time in the physical plane, not to mention higher dimensionalities as well. And then recently, the retired director of the Space Force in Israel has come out and actually confirmed that there is a confederation of planets, and using the exact same terminology that all the contactees going back to the 1950s have used, including George Adamski, Howard Menger, Buck Nelson, all these people. And now it's not so crazy anymore. And a lot of the things that they were talking about and the things that I write about in my Venus Rising series of books are coming to pass. For example, 2.5 months ago, the discovery of phosphenes in the Venusian atmosphere, it was proof positive for the British Interplanetary Society that higher complex organisms must exist on Venus because these are produced in the bodies of certain mammals and higher organisms. And then just recently, let me pull this up and share an article here with you.
Hold on, I just gotta do one thing so you can share it. Hold on.
Okay.
Okay, you should be able to share it.
Oh. Let's see, share screen. And we want to go. Yeah, this is a series of articles that I'm currently writing. I have the papers of 𝗤𝘂𝗍𝗏 Krebs from the Borderland Sciences Research Association. They were studying the superspectrum and everything all the way back in the late 1940s through the present time. Meade Lane was the first director, and then in 1959, 𝗤𝘂𝗍𝗏 Krebs took over, and
Many of these articles that Raymond's talking about are available on my website. There's a blog that Raymond has alone. And if anyone has any questions on any of the articles or anything about this interview, you can send them to me at 𝗵𝗂𝗍𝗏𝗏@gmail.com. And we have a cosmic mailbag, and Raymond will answer questions. And if he or I can't answer them, we will submit them to the Venusians themselves, may answer them.
Oh,
So,
that's amazing.
yeah.
Really good to know. What was that website again? The promise revealed at gmail.com?
The promise revealed at gmail.com. And Yeah, so if your questions are beyond our scope to know, the Venusians will answer them. So there it is, folks. Ask.
Laura, what you're looking at here is the most recent photograph of Venus that was released to the public.
Wow.
The Parker Solar Probe was launched by NASA 2.5 years ago. The purpose was to gather data about anomalous phenomena taking place on the surface of the sun, to explain the sudden rise of temperature on all the planets in the solar system, and mysterious electrical anomalies with sunspots and so forth. But to accomplish this mission, they had to route the solar probe around Venus for a gravity push, gravity acceleration. And so it did 4 swings around Venus so far, getting in as close as 7,000 miles. And on this swing that it took on Venus of August of last year, and mind you that the photograph wasn't released until the 21st of February of this year. And everything that comes into NASA has a radio delay, and it also has to pass through sensors before it's released. So this is true with the moon and every other planet, and just outer space generally with what they find there. But this is a photo showing the night side of Venus. Now Venus rotates very slowly, about 119 Earth days equivalent, 119.5 Earth days for it to go from the daylight to the night. So rotating very slowly. But in my Venus books, beginning in 2015 with Venus Rising and all the subsequent books, I started to write about the limb effect. And this was to explain why does Venus at times look like it's lit up on the back side of the moon, and astronomers were ignoring this or just trying to pass it off as some kind of optical quirk with the telescope or something. But this is an actual photo of what should be complete darkness, with Venus facing away from the sun on that side, all completely lit up. And the NASA spokesperson tried to explain this photo by saying it was ionized oxygen in the atmosphere of Venus that drifted over to the night side. And even their explanation there is lame, because it opens up another question. If Venus is supposed to have mostly carbon dioxide, poisonous atmosphere, then what are they talking about oxygen for? So you see there's all kind of quirks in their stories. But anyway, the British Interplanetary Society and their discovery indicated that there were phosphenes that were a source of nourishment for some kind of life in the Venusian atmosphere. And in my Venus books, I write about at least one of several forms of insect life, bees in particular, that are bioluminescent, and that they feed off rare gases and molecules and so forth in the Venusian atmosphere, and that these anomalous dark areas on the daylight side that are seen, these swarms are actually these huge swarms of these very large insects. These bees are about 5 foot across.
Oh, wow.
Each. And so here's the here's another proof of it. And going all the way back to the beginning of the space race with the Soviet Union, we see all kinds of information released about Venus piecemeal here and there in various scientific journals that are buried there. And in all my Venus books, I uncover all this material, including a project White Stork by the United States to monitor the activities in the then Soviet Union to search for extraterrestrial life, and particularly on Venus. So the White Stork revelations and many fantastic but fully documented facts are in all my Venus books. And if people you know, think it's crazy, once they start reading it, they'll see that that it's not. And I've been contacted by scientists in NASA at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena and other places, even from the Russian space program, have my contacts, the rocket program and so forth. And they tell me, yes, that these things are quite true.
So Raymond, you've been there. So Laura, you might want to ask him what life is like on Venus, because he was actually there walking amongst the society.
Yeah, yeah. What was that like? I mean, just
well, it's a civilization that's far surpassing our own technologically and spiritually as well. Not to say that we aren't advancing, but they've got about a 3 million year jump in their cosmic evolution, and they're worried about us here on Earth because we're passing through a very critical phase where our technology is outpacing our level of humanity and spirituality, and we can't even get along with each other. We don't have a planetary-wide government. We don't have a planetary-wide energy grid that we could share power with. And like, just look what happened in Texas recently.
Right.
And
right.
We're backwards on so many things. And until we have reached a certain level of, let's say, spiritual maturity, they look at us like the children playing with matches in a dynamite shack. So Venus, of course, is the closest inhabited planet to the Earth, and they also have bases on the moon, on the far side of the moon. When you look at these books like Harold T. Wilkins, Flying Saucers and so forth, in the 1950s, he writes about various anomalies on the moon. And then with the Apollo space program as well in the 60s and early 70s, about various phenomena on the moon, bridges and so forth, towers, and structures in the walls of craters and various phenomena. A lot of this has been cleared up on the side facing the Earth and moved to the backside. And in my book, The Final Countdown, Rockets to Venus, as well as the 𝗍𝗂𝗶𝗍𝗏 Venus Revelations, there's many photos and documentation and illustrations by 𝗍𝗂𝗶𝗍𝗏 herself, as well as from Russia and the United States, with the moon probes and the American Ranger probes that went to the moon, showing dome structures and various anomalies in great abundance on the far side of the moon. Also, when we look at books by George Adamski and so forth, and they talked about there being lakes on the moon and so forth, they were laughing at that, you know, but then, you know, Stanton Friedman even back in 1971 was saying that we even back then had the technology that if we wanted to, we could create very nice habitats on the moon. So these things do exist. They're put there by advanced extraterrestrial civilizations. They've discovered within the last year, they've discovered abundant water on the moon. Been many articles about that in scientific journals. They've discovered a lake at the south pole of the moon that's about the size of Puerto Rico. And so this stuff is not science fiction. This is for real.
Right, right, amazing. So, I mean, there's been a battle on Earth between, dark and light for a long time, and it seems there's a great awakening happening, but we are dealing with, this virus and the jabs and all these mandates and mask wearing. And I mean, what would you say the status is of the Earth's liberation process right now? And how are they helping us behind the scenes?
Okay, they're prohibited from interfering directly because they realize that we as a planet are entitled to our own sovereignty, that we are the captains of our own fate, and but they are working behind the scenes. This is true, and there have been many visitations of Venusians and other extraterrestrials to leaders in political, military, and scientific, and even religious capacities from time to time. And there are rogue elements. We know that Mr. 𝗟𝘂𝗶𝗆, Canadian defense minister during the Pearson administration there, up to 1964, he said that about 20% of the extraterrestrials, he wasn't sure of their intent toward us, and that there are rogue elements, so they are being watched. Closely, and at times there has been a kind of Cold War going on behind the scenes between these good and bad ETs, and sometimes with the help of various American and Soviet or Chinese or European authorities.
Cause, stop sharing the screen.
But you mentioned time traveling back to 1954, and that obviously was a time where Eisenhower was in office. Can you tell us a little bit about that mission and what the purpose of it was and what you were able to witness and see?
Oh yes, I would be happy to. In my book, Venus Rising, there are about 50 pages in here where I track events in the mid-1950s through the early 1960s, where the United States government was tracking the Black Knight, what they called the Black Knight, which was a Venusian mothership, and all the documentations of the sightings and how it was tracked by various agencies, and including tracking stations in Australia and so forth. It's all in there. And we know that Valiant Thor was sent on a mission to the Earth at that time. And in various posts, I published the original pictures from the meeting, including the notes and so forth. I could pull those up if you'd like to see those.
Sure.
Okay, one moment.
So Cause, he's such a researcher. He has all the evidence. So it's amazing stuff here. That he's going to be able to share here. That's a picture of him in the at the.
Yeah, this is me. This is me in the 1960s in the National Enquirer, and in the center, you see I'm holding up various back issues of the Flying Saucer Report, which was a magazine that I published at the time. It was funded by Earl J. Neff, was one of the original Untouchables and the director of the Cleveland Ufology Project. So I've throughout the 60s to the present, I've corresponded with many prominent ufologists from around the world. Dr. Leo Sprinkle wrote the introduction to my first book. He was on the APRO Board of Scientific Consultants, Aerial Phenomena Research Organization, directed by Coral and Jim Lorenzen, which I was an early member of that. And this article from the Enquirer is from the archives of Gray Barker himself, the publisher of the Saucerian Press.
Okay, so what it sounds like is there are sort of rogue missions. 𝗟𝘂𝗍𝗏 came and stayed at the
This is
Pentagon,
where
right?
I wanted to show you as a prelude to this, so that you and the viewers understand. This is this gentleman on the right is Raymond A. Palmer. He was the editor and publisher of many science fiction magazines like Amazing Stories, but he also published Mystic and Fate magazine, and was a huge proponent of flying saucers. This gentleman in the center, his name is Otto O. Binder. Now, Otto O. Binder was a science fiction writer, and also a writer and creator of comic book characters, including Supergirl. And this was the one of the editors. This was Julius Schwartz, one of the editors over at DC Comics. And but this gentleman here wrote 5 books about flying saucers, and I had copies of his original manuscripts, including one that he wrote with a gentleman named August C. Roberts. August C. Roberts was a photographer from New Jersey that specialized in UFO research. Now, August C. Roberts is important because he was the one who was at that meeting with Valiant Thor, where he showed up at Howard Menger's house in High Bridge, New Jersey, for that meeting of the Flying Saucer Club. And so what you're going to see now are original photographs with his stamp on it, his official seal, and a typed explanation of what was going on, not only at the meeting itself, but later on into the evening. And we'll actually see the notes that were written by Valiant Thor. Okay, so we're going to.
So the thing here, folks, is that Otto Binder guy. If you realize, he created Supergirl. He created Supergirl based on the time travel experience of Raymond. So Raymond, you're going into kind of old ufology. I don't know, Laura, do you have any other questions? I mean,
yeah. Oh gosh, so many questions. So, I mean, if there's sort of a non-intervention thing, and folks like 𝗟𝘂𝗍𝗏 and Victor I came though during the Eisenhower administration, I mean, they're obviously wanting to help us to save ourselves. And if that's the case, because we're under so much attack with like social engineering and mind control, when will we see more maybe advanced technology and more ability for us to recover from this level of assault? Because it seems like we're in an immature sort of society based in a lot of these tactics used by the dark side to undermine us and manipulate us through the use of dark technology. So maybe, yeah, anything you can address about helping us to save ourselves, but also the disclosure of more advanced technologies that would help us to recover from some of these tactics used to keep us in a very sort of dumbed down state.
Okay. Yes. Well, we are constantly developing new technology and so forth, and the Venusians maintain a relatively defensive posture, and if we were to go there unprepared or ill-equipped to participate in a federation of planets or a confederation of planets, they would be able to literally conceal themselves. They would literally be able to cloak themselves. In fact, they do have space platforms and stations and so forth that remain largely cloaked.
Right, right. So, I mean, as we see just the attempts of like New World Order on the planet, and they can't really fully intervene, but they're making their presence known in order to help us to, I mean, would you say to help us save ourselves and develop ourselves, knowing?
Oh, yes. This is the purpose and the message of all the contactees, going back to the very dawn of the space age and the atomic age. And this is a line that runs through all of the contact claims, all of the stories that we may or may not be familiar with. And so beside my own experiences and encounters, I've been privileged to access a lot of this material from the past that's never been seen before, to document their cases as well of the other contactees and some of the lesser known ones, so that the people can see for themselves that this is all very real.
Hey, Kaz, I wanted to say one thing here. We've done this particular documentation that you have, and I know you love it, but we've done this on other shows, and you can Google search Alfred Lambert Weber and some of my shows, and this is interesting stuff, but Laura has some more metaphysical questions and, you know, wants to get more into their interaction. You have a lot of evidence here, but of the spiritual stuff and kind of how we can maybe, you know, she's got a lot of questions as far as, because people are ready to understand what's going on, I think, right, Laura? I mean, you had some other...
Oh, yeah. Well, it's really incredible to see everything that you're sharing, but yeah, I mean, looking at, you know, where we are in the here and now, it's just such a tense time on the planet for everybody. Just seeing what's happening to just even the school systems and the indoctrination and the threat of what this jab could do to people. I mean, I feel like Venus has been the planet that has been creating the corrections. I mean, do you hear much about, you know, the Mayan predictions, the Venus transits and the orbit of Venus and how it creates a perfect pentagram? And to me, that's sort of like, as a planetary body, it's helping to create the corrections in order to help liberate the planet. Do you have any information about that?
Oh, yes. Yes, this is fully documented in Venus Rising. And it's very interesting because the orbital relationship of Venus to the Earth is always in a Fibonacci number. So because Venus is closer to the Sun, the higher Fibonacci number of exact orbits will correspond to the next lowest Fibonacci number for the Earth. So in other words, as the Fibonacci sequence goes like 3, 5, 8, and so forth, if there were 8 orbits of Venus, it would match it completely with 5 orbits of the Earth. And so during an 8-year Venus cycle, there would be 5 closest approaches of the planet Venus to the Earth. And since Venus has a near circular orbit, these closest approaches to the Earth would find themselves at the 5 equidistant points on a pentagram. And so this is where we have King Solomon's star going back all the way to the time of the Knights Templar, and we see in a lot of the mystery schools and so forth, and including to the present day, like the Masonic Lodge, the pentagram is very significant. The star of Venus, or the blazing star, which rises between the 2 pillars in the initiation rites in the Masonic Lodge.
Yeah, I mean, it seems it's creating corrections, almost like the redemption of Lucifer, or the fallen sort of lights, and it corrects that by completing the alchemy, right? Is that kind of?
Yes, And what's very interesting about this is the connection to the bees, and we know from all the ancient societies and cultures here on Earth of the significance and the importance of the bees as teaching us a higher order of social organization and a better way of life and cooperation, thrift and industry. And we see that the bees were given as a gift by the Venusians to the people of Earth, and it's Rumi, the mystic Sufi poet and writer. He wrote about this. It's in the annals of the Roman Empire, all the way down through the Merovingians, all the way to the present age, about the bees coming from Venus and so forth. And what is interesting is the connection with the Fibonacci numbers as well, because in my book, Venus Rising, I go through the explanation of how bees reproduce and how the number of bees in any hive will always be a Fibonacci number, why that is. And also the connection of bees and insects through Egyptian lore and the lore of many different cultures, as representing an advanced intelligence that's here to help us. We see that Nikola Tesla was built a telescope in 1898, and he was in contact with what he said seemed to be bees on the planet Venus. So I write all about that there.
Oh, amazing!
But the importance of bees,
and they seem to be very targeted on this Earth, of course. But then the whole concept of the queen bee and the role of the queen bee is so significant.
Oh yes, and this is all explains the Fibonacci relationship of the Earth with Venus, the golden spiral. How when you graph the Fibonacci numbers on graph paper, you see what it looks like mathematically like that, and then when you connect it to a circle, the Fibonacci number looks like that. And so how do we know that the Venusians are visiting us when they leave crop circles that are in the pattern of the golden spiral?
Right.
And it's all explained here in my in my books.
Incredible.
And here's how the bees reproduce in a hive. So we see that they're always going to be a Fibonacci number in this pattern, parents, grandparents, and so forth, the number of bees to reproduce, and how that translates that the whole number of bees in the hive will be a Fibonacci number and so forth. So this is also the number that's associated with the divine feminine. We know in the Dan Brown movie where he had the box, and if you look at the box carefully, the way that you open the box is you have to key in the Fibonacci sequence, and so this is stuff that's very intimately tied to human history and evolution. And but you have to look for it. You have to be patient and know what you're looking for, and then if you seek it, you'll find it.
Yeah, and it's so amazing just the significance of honey and the healing properties of honey and just the substance of honey that bees make. We're actually going to be a beekeeper family here very soon.
Oh, very exciting! Very exciting.
I'm sharing a picture.
Have you done any preliminary work with bees so far?
We're just doing a lot of reading and studying up on it, but I don't have much experience at all. So
I'm sharing here what it looks like on the surface. This is a picture drawn by my friend 𝗍𝗂𝗍𝗀, who may come to my conference this summer. So, Raymond actually witnessed the ascension of the Queen, and the gathering and how the ceremony took place, and he has a lot of more relevant stuff to give people the hard facts of life on Venus.
yes.
I mean, I don't know. I was thinking so many people, maybe we'll have questions from this later, but I just, if you.
Yeah, but where does one ascend to? I mean, is it different for everybody? I mean, we shift into a different dimension, but then there's that whole shifting from carbon-based to crystalline while in physical form, but then one might move through like a Stargate and or experience like what you did, or go through a similar process that the Queen did in a ceremony kind of way. Like how would
well, it's they don't use the word ascension themselves. They use a word called translation. Ascension would be more of a mass event, but literally hundreds of people are translated almost on a yearly basis, where they're just taken there physically to the planet Venus, and those that are translated to stay there permanently, they undergo a process of having their enzymes changed, and they're exposed to a certain kind of cosmic radiation that greatly extends their lifespan, and actually Rob was given a message from the Queen herself that he has on a recording that where she goes into detail explaining that process, and it's quite scientific.
How do the Venetians see the planet Earth, though? I mean, from what I've come to understand, like the mother arc energy, the 13th gate, just the return of the mother energy, the planetary, consciousness being anchored back into the physical planet after not really being there. It seems like the planet Venus and everything about Venus has helped to anchor the mother energy back into this Earth. Is that what, have you heard much about that, or what are their thoughts on this planet?
Oh yes, it's very matriarchal. Of course, Venus is ruled by a queen, and it's patterned after the social matrix, if you will, of a beehive.
Does that have something to do with people saying that like inner Earth is like honeycomb, kind of like?
Oh yes, there are many honeycomb structures, and here on Earth there's over 300 species of bees, and there is a bee that's very large it's about as large as a mouse, each individual bee, and they live in the volcanic sands of, they burrow out in the sands, making their nests underground on the edges of a volcano in Nicaragua.
Raymond, she was talking about the honeycomb, the civilization and the various civilizations of the Agarthan network in the Earth. Dr. Frank Stranges actually went in and visited some of those beings with Valiant Thor. Can you talk about maybe the underground bases or?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'm writing an article about that right now. In fact, I have it up here. One moment. Okay, this is that same, it's in the same one here. And
you can just talk about it.
Part 5 of my 𝗟𝘂𝗶𝗆 revelations. And here you see Agarthans as etheric beings that inhabit the inner world. And then we know from Borderland Sciences Research Associates that in the super spectrum of worlds, unseen worlds, that from time to time they become manifest to certain individuals who are either allowed to travel there or to encounter these etheric beings. This is 𝗵𝘲𝗏, the first president of Borderland Sciences, who explored this kind of thing. And this is Mark Probert. Mark Probert was hired by 𝗵𝘲𝗏 and Borderland Sciences to find out more about Earth in the etheric plane, and to contact beings from there, particularly from the inner Earth. And there's an interview in here with an Agarthan, and this is the actual interview. And the human says, can you tell us anything about the flying discs and similar objects? Yes, if it is lawful to tell and you are able to understand. 𝗵𝘲𝗏 says they are Etherians. Some say that they are from other planets or from our Earth, which is right. All of them. There are many different objects which some people can see at times. They come from other planets, from other planes of life, and some from places on this planet, but places unknown to you. Then there are Etherians. Yes. Are they human beings? Is steam water? Is a mixture of gases water? Well, not exactly. Yet steam can be produced from water or converted into water. I see. Somehow, I doubt it. Can you communicate with Etherians at will? Yes, if we have reasons for doing so. We do not waste time communicating merely for amusement or to satisfy idle curiosity. How is this done? Exactly the same way I'm now communicating with you. It's a matter of converting or translating vibrational frequencies to establish rapport between two intelligences. It is not necessary that these intelligences be embodied in corporeal flesh. In fact, flesh is often a hindrance. The real being of any entity is not what you see. It clothes itself with the physical body, just as the body does with physical garments. So, in other words, they're saying that we have a kindred bond with the Etherians and all beings, regardless of their dimensional level, because we all contain that certain spark of divinity within us. And in the physical plane, we put on this mortal body, but just as a clothing, so that we could exist and operate in this atmosphere and in this physical environment. But really, the message of the Etherians to us is that we're really a lot more than we think we are.
Yeah.
And they and other Etherians helping us to get to that point.
Well, do they see us like under attack, or do they see this as a necessary duality or darkness in order to like catalyze an awakening? Or I mean, on a cosmic sort of galactic level, is this sort of this galactic war and what we're dealing with on Earth sort of an anomaly that is being addressed, you know, kind of like, whoa, that wasn't really expected? Or is there like a divine plan and this dark polarity, which of course to some degree helps wake us up, but is there a certain level of assault that's gone way too far in their perception?
Yes, from time to time, when things start to get out of hand, they increase their presence here on the Earth. There's always, as Rumi said, that there back around the 12th century, 10th, 11th, 12th century, there was always an angel force on the Earth of about 4,000 entities. And that has been significantly augmented since the arrival of the space age and the atomic age, and so forth. So now we see beside various entities from other planets and dimensional planes of the superspectrum that are arriving here on the physical plane of Earth. We also see many more beings that are incarnate here on in the planet, sent as avatars or teachers from more advanced worlds to bring us more illumination to help us along the path.
Right.
They obviously have monitoring capabilities that they can look through matter. They follow certain individuals. They know everything they've done. They're recording all of these crimes and all of these things. And Raymond, you've spoken to me many times on this, and I think this would be good for people to grasp, is that the reason they can't intervene is because if they intervene, we would be subjugated and overwhelmed. We wouldn't establish our own individual planetary consciousness, and that's the purpose, is for us to develop on our own. But can you talk about what is required for us to have the open contact and the mentoring that is coming? It's coming to people like you, to people like me. I'm asking questions, I'm getting information. It's not being accepted yet, but in the near future, your information and other contactees' information will go beyond this, oh, it's just a person talking about this and hasn't had a real experience. People are very triggered. Can you talk about what humanity must accomplish for open contact and to be able to receive this mentoring, to be able to use the technology that will come responsibly?
Yes, Rob. There was a Russian scientist named 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, and he came up with a ranking or a classification for levels of civilization. And unless we're on an equal footing in our technological development that at least matches our spiritual development, then we need to remain apart from the larger galactic community until we can learn from the teachers and avatars that they have already sent, instead of dismissing them or even killing them, like that Bob Marley song, "How long will you kill the prophets that are sent among you?" This is a book that I'm holding. Evelyn Smith, she was a science fiction writer in the 1950s, and she was very closely connected with ufology and a frequent visitor to the interplanetary spacecraft conventions that were held out at Giant Rock. And a lot of her stories are connected with her own experience with UFOs. She was also a very close friend of of Dr. George Hunt Williamson when he edited a newspaper in Indiana, in Noblesville, Indiana, and Evelyn Smith lived nearby in Indianapolis, and where she wrote her science fiction and stuff, and her family had a farm there on the outskirts of Indianapolis. But anyway, she wrote this book and many science fiction books. And in one of the stories, she wrote about how the people of Earth wanted so bad for the extraterrestrials to come down and run everything for them because they were making such a mess of it themselves. And so the ETs did. They made a paradise planet that everybody had everything that they ever dreamed of, but they weren't happy. And they weren't happy because they didn't have the freedom. They didn't learn to do anything for themselves. And the Venusians and the other ETs that were down here on the Earth that were running everything were tired of it too, because they were there in the capacity of being cosmic babysitters, so that people can honor and value their freedom.
Not take it for granted.
It's very important to maintain the sovereignty of not only civilizations and countries and nations here on Earth, but individuals as well. And nobody likes a dictatorship, even if it is benevolent.
Right.
And, so it's important for us to establish our own kind of self-government. And this lady here, Evelyn Smith, she was a Venusian herself. She got translated to a higher dimension of Venus, and you could read her story too in my Venus Rising books.
Oh, excellent. Well, this is the thing. It seems so hard for people to find sovereignty when there's AI, there's imposters. Some people are channeling what they might consider to be light beings that actually aren't, and the level of sort of trickery and deception just seems to really play really well-intentioned people that otherwise might progress or evolve pretty well without this level of attack, I guess. So how can we kind of overcome all of that it's like that's a huge part of the awakening process, is to get a grip on that level of deception and criminal activity like child trafficking and horrific things. It seems our growth is being stunted in abusive ways. Any suggestions to how a person can overcome that, and when something like med beds might come, and if those are connected to Venusian technology? Okay,
well, the Venusians, as well as some other extraterrestrials here, are helping us behind the scenes. I can tell you that, and they cooperate with some in authority, or even on an individual basis when possible.
So to maybe assist humanity in overcoming these level of assaults like mind control or any sort of damage from GMOs and the chemtrail agenda and the jabs. Do you see advanced technology coming in? Because it almost seems like it's going to have to happen soon because of the harmful effects of all this stuff. Is that a part of the greater plan to help us? And it's not seen as intervention. It's a positive disclosure that we will be able to receive at some point. And if so,
yes,
yeah,
yes, Laura, that's right. They're giving us and certain individuals whom they can trust. They're giving them the tools to help us to help ourselves.
Yeah,
and to teach us to do what they can, especially on the part of the Venusians, because they are the closest to us, and the history of of relations between Earthlings and Venusians goes back to the beginnings of recorded history. That's why.
Yeah, I'm going to fill in a little bit here. So
That's why already all these books I've written on that very same subject. So
I wanted to share some things. So they are working directly with musicians, with scientists, whether they're known or unknown. They're actually working with individuals within the world's science fields in our technology, and they're taking them to underground bases where they can learn to use the fourth dimensional technology of time travel. So because we're coming into the fourth dimension and we have to be responsible. So all of these things are happening behind the scenes. So there's very definite actions where they're interacting with scientists. Raymond told me that some scientists are on the brink of a discovery that could be dangerous, and they'll reveal who they are, and they actually say, we're going to ask you, please don't do this. This could get out of hand right now, and you could receive trouble from the government coming in to kill you even, maybe, and take your technology. So they do guide. And I wanted to say one thing. The way they're working is one heart at a time to help the individual affect a change in consciousness. Raymond, could you talk about the importance of the spiritual orientation? And one last thing, because I think before we do that, she mentioned medbed. You may not be familiar with that, but can you talk about the Venusian life extension technology, where it came from, and how that people can be born and not age for thousands of years?
Okay, I think the best explanation was given by the Queen in a message to Rob Potter, and he put that in his book, and I think it's on some of the broadcasts that he did that can replay it. But basically, they have a technology where they can reconstruct a body out of DNA, and they have a technology to withdraw consciousness from a body and to hold it in a suspension to put it into a newly constructed body. And Lady Columba writes about that in her book, in the Lady Columba Venus Revelations. She explains it in detail. Let me show you a thing here. She did an illustration of it, and you could see it actually at the University of Arizona at Tucson in the Art Museum.
Oh, wow.
So that's Annabelle Krebs, and a new body was constructed for her. She was in her 90s, in her late 90s, and they had taken her consciousness and downloaded it into a kind of machine, and then they reconstituted a body for her like a teenager, and then put her consciousness back into it, and she woke up on the far side of the moon, and that's her actual drawing of it. And it says The Great Soul by Annabelle Krebs can be seen at the University of Arizona at Tucson Library in the Special Collections Department. While on Earth, Columba maintained that following her death, Venusians would transport her genetic essence, or DNA, that's what they called it back then, to the Clarion base on the far side of our moon, where it would be reconstructed into a new body and reanimated with an infusion of her consciousness that had previously been downloaded into a special computer. She would then become a near immortal avatar.
Hey, Kaz, while you're at it, could you pull up the picture of the bee on the council meeting on the moon in 1957 that shows the blue avian, the Ganesha being, and the bee people?
Oh yeah, yeah. This is remember this. These drawings that were made by her were made in the 1950s.
So a person might ask, well, how is a person like chosen? I mean, is there an invocation? Is there just a connection that's made? Is there an initiation into being able to make this level of contact to experience these sort of, I mean, is this something that's going to be available for all, or does it take something within us to be able to begin to make that connection? Because people are so worried about their friends and loved ones and themselves. And it's like, okay, if these things are there, how can I be one of those individuals or help friends and family participate in this kind of contact or healing experience?
Well, eventually, everybody will be contacted, and everybody will become aware. But those of you who have had an interest in paranormal events and developing latent powers within them, in UFOs, and have often thought about subjects like life on other planets, imagining what that could be, and so forth. There's a reason for that, and it's because you have what I call an EQ, an extraterrestrial quotient. And on page 252 of my Venus Rising, I actually go through page after page of various aspects of physical, emotional, extraterrestrial experiences, out-of-body experiences, metaphysics, and psychic development. And then there's a checklist under each of those categories where you can find out what your EQ is, what your extraterrestrial quotient is. And so if you fall into this category, then you could be pretty sure that you're in the vanguard of contact, for advanced contact. And these are exactly the kind of people that the ETs are looking for, because they will help smooth the way or pave the way for a transition for the rest of humankind.
Right. So it seems like some of this healing technology is like benevolent kind of AI. And where is that correct?
Yes.
And where does that, because people, when they think about ETs, are always maybe because of their belief systems connected to whatever religion they might have been raised in, how do the Venusians kind of explain like the Jesus Christ energy, or just who the Christ energy is?
Oh, okay. They don't really sponsor any particular religion. They just encourage people to be the best at operate within the parameters of their belief structure that they already have, to be the best that they are, to live up to the highest precepts.
Right. Like Christ is an oh, sorry, go ahead.
Right. And so they don't, like, for example, myself, I don't promote any religion or any kind of sect or cult or anything. I just write books about Venus. And
well, I wish more people would think like that, because it definitely feels like it gets in the way, you know?
Yes.
You recognize the teachings of each avatar.
Exactly.
And
that's what
the message.
I wanted to point out about healing, though, that in this book here, Final Countdown, Rockets to Venus, I have some stories in here by Russians, people in the former Soviet Union, who were visited by angels. They were in the Russian Orthodox Church, and that's not their apperception, how they perceive these beings. These angelic beings appeared to them. They manifested from Venus and cured a lady out of cancer, and healed these people, and took farmer to Venus and everything. These are all from the former Soviet Union, and their stories are all in here, and they're all documented from the Russian papers, newspapers, and political authorities back then. And so this stuff is all real. It's not it's not made up. Anybody can check out these things for themselves and see that that even if somebody started off as an atheist, by the time they had these experiences, they were full believers.
Raymond, let's talk about, you mentioned Jesus Christ, and you talk about Christ is coming from Venus, identified with the morning star. Valiant Thor actually was commissioned by Jesus Christ on there. And though they're not religious, they are very spiritual. And it's not about religion, but it's about the teachings that we are all children of a living, loving God. And as so are brothers and sisters, we should treat each other as we would have done unto us. So can you talk a little bit about the individual avatar of Jesus the Christ versus the return or the development of humanity from the beastly nature to the spiritual nature, and the transformation as the lower self fuses with the higher self and establishes itself in the higher mind, or what some people would call the Christ consciousness, or
so it seems those teachings, pretty much got wiped in favor of worship instead of developing oneself as a Christed being, right? So
right, exactly. It's more the message. It's more the message than the messenger. But several points in the Bible, it does specifically reference the morning star. Jesus identifies with the morning star in Revelation 22:16, and then in 1 Peter it said, "Let the morning star rise in your heart," and so forth. So there's a lot of connection between Venus and extraterrestrials and Venusians, and I really go into those in depth in all my Venus books, but particularly in the first one, Venus Rising. Valiant Thor, Valiant Thor's one of his primary contacts on the earth was Reverend Frank Stranges of Evangelical Crusade in Van Nuys, California, and his message was always a Christed spiritual message. His inner circle had the Royal Order of Melchizedek, and Rob has one of these too.
So yeah, because we are getting near the time, I think Laura wanted to ask you, I think you said something about a picture that you were going to share.
Oh, like you said something about Ganesha or the blue avians, or?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's
yeah, can you show that again? So
okay.
So this is a picture. I was trying to pull it up on my screen to share it a little better, but he has to show it. It's in the black and white version of Amazon. But this picture was drawn by Annabelle Krebs. She was able to sit in on a Confederation meeting where there are various beings in the solar system. Okay,
this
talk, Raymond, so you can see it. Yeah.
This is on a space platform called the Leviathan, and it was a council for all the extraterrestrials were gathering to determine.
On the screen, Raymond.
Yes, they determined the policy of what they should do for the Earth, and you see over here this was drawn by Columba Krebs, or Lady Columba, and this woman here with the beret is Commander Aura Raines from the moon base Clarion, who is in attendance, and then one of the beings in the picture. There's a bee, there's a very large bee, and then there's also a blue avian over here. And remember, this is in the 1950s, before anybody ever knew or talked about blue avians. And there's one right there in the picture. So all of this stuff is quite real, and it's documented going a long time back into human history and the history of contactees. So we're not making this stuff up.
That picture was not that clear for that, folks. And as Raymond's mentioned hundreds of times, his books are available. But some amazing stuff, Cos. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I was going to show the, we'll have to do it another time with the, what we did on the other program with the August C. Roberts stamp and explanation for at the Howard Menger farm and the Flying Saucer meeting. All the other people that were there besides Valiant Thor and his crew that were attending the Flying Saucer Club meeting.
Wow, I could talk to you all day. This has just been unbelievable. We'll definitely have to do this again. And I know this is going to generate a lot of different thoughts and questions from people. And certainly after I sort of process everything that's been shared, I know more questions will come in, and there's still more questions I have now. But this could yeah, at least be a start. And I hope you'll join again. And your contribution to the planet is just unbelievable. I'm just so grateful, and to you as well, Rob, for just bringing this message and this information to the world. This is going to really light up a lot of people and give people a lot of positivity, and that's very hard to come by in these times, as we know, right? So
yeah, thank you so much for having us on. And my email address is 𝗵𝗂𝗏𝗄𝐿@gmail.com, and I'm going to request that you just address your questions. We do not answer any personal questions. It's on my website called Robin Ray's Cosmic Mailbag. But you can email me. We're not going to ask. We need to keep a short, simple question about Venus, about life on Venus, and many of these questions are probably answered in his books. We don't take personal questions. We don't need to hear your story of contact. Just give us the question, and because it's going to be posted on the website, the answer. So we don't want your personal story or information or anything about that revealed on the website. The Promise Revealed, and then of course the books are available on my website. You get a B sticker with it. And don't forget our conference coming up this summer. It's going to be called Hierarchy of Light in Mount Shasta, and we're combining it with a huge reggae festival in Mount Shasta. There's going to be lots of wonderful musicians and a special weekend on the mountain in Mount Shasta with Laura and many other people, including Raymond Keller, Louis Martens, the famous contactee from South America. We're waiting for things to change, but we're feeling we're very close here for some big changes coming forward. People are awakening. And
can you remind us of those dates in Shasta?
August 27th through the 30th, coming up this summer. We'll probably have some ticket things sorted out, and then a lot of the speakers delineated by that time. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much. And it's wonderful that you guys, take questions like that. A lot of people will be so grateful for that. And I'm sure, that's just such an incredible resource that you're providing, that, people can just ask questions. I so appreciate this. I feel so uplifted. This has absolutely shifted me. I'm just incredibly grateful.
Well, thank you, Laura. And thank you very much for the opportunity of being on your wonderful program. And we'll also have 2 new Venus books in this series that will be out at the Mount Shasta event.
Wonderful. Well, I really look forward to that, and much love to both of you. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and I'll provide the links in the description, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye.